We are now live.
Welcome everyone to Clearview Township's Committee of Adjustment meeting, our first back in person. I will call the meeting to order at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, today, someday in October. I would like to start our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Teonatani, Wendat, and is home of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of the intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationship and ask for guidance in all we do. Can I ask the committee members in attendance and Dan up on the screen if they have any pecuniary interest in the three files before us this evening? None. And which one, Dan?
The Collingwood Airport.
Which one?
The Collingwood Airport, so the consent file.
Okay. At the time when we arrived at that, if I could ask you to close your camera and microphone when we get to that point in the meeting, Dan, it would be much appreciated.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to accept the minutes if there is nothing in the last month's minutes to discuss? You wish to discuss or a motion? A motion? All in favor? Carried. Minutes have been accepted. The Committee of Adjustment today will consider two minor variances and a consent application scheduled under the public hearings. The Planning Act requires that a public hearing be held before we, the Committee of Adjustment, decides whether or not to pass a consent or a minor variance. The public hearing serves two purposes. First, to present to the Committee of Adjustment and the public the details and background of the application, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before a decision is made. For each application, the Secretary Treasurer will summarize the proposal and correspondence on file. Planning staff will provide any other information that is relevant to the application. From there, the applicant will be provided the opportunity to make a presentation, followed by questions. All questions should go through me, and committee members will have an opportunity to question the applicant, the planner, or anyone giving presentations. The application will then be considered by the committee. Would the Secretary Treasurer please advise how, when, and to whom notices of the public hearings were circulated?
Notice for these applications was posted on the subject properties on or before September 26, 2023, being at least 14 days prior to the hearing. Notice for these applications was also sent by mail to the addressed owners within 60 meters of the subject properties. Notice was also circulated for the applications to those persons, departments, and agencies likely to have an interest in the applications as legislated. Included with each notice was a legal description of the property and a description of the purpose of the proposed consent or variance. The circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter P13.
Portion, we will discuss the first file, minor variance file 23.A15. We summarize the application and the correspondence received to date.
Can't hear you, Chuck.
My apologies, Dan. I missed the microphone. Would you, Ms. Taggart, would you please summarize the application and any correspondence received to date regarding this application on file 23-A15?
The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 2341 Concession 10 North, formerly Nottawasaga, and legally described as Concession 10 South, Part Lot 36. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment for relief from the rural zone minimum interior side yard setback requirement of 4.5 meters to 4.42 meters. The total variance being requested is 0.08 meters. The effect of the application is to allow for an addition to the existing dwelling on the subject lands. A comment was received from Bell Canada having no concern or objection to the application. And we have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves minor variance 23A15 pertaining to lands at 2341 Concession 10 North Clearview on the basis that it meets the 4 tests in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Christine. Planning staff, do you have any comments to make on this file that you have presented today?
Thank you, Chair. No, planning staff have no further comments on the current application.
Mr. and Mrs. Wilson,
Mr.
Mr. Wilson, is there a come on up to the microphone, sir.
Hello,
Do you have anything to add to the file that we do not already have before us today?
I don't actually.
All right. Too easy. Makes this pretty quick.
Yeah,
All right. Do I have a motion to accept the file in front of us? Yes. All in favor? Yes, all around. You have a 20-day appeal period before you can do anything. And then I suggest you go see Christine.
okay.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
I guess I can go now? All right, thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Next on our file list of our agenda is minor variance file 23-A16. Ms. Tiger, would you please summarize the application, any correspondence received to date regarding that application?
The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 8 Homestead Drive, formerly Nottawasaga, and legally described as Plan M183, Part Lot 2. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment for relief from the Residential Estate Exception 3 zone, minimum interior side yard setback requirement of 5 meters to 3.25 meters. The total variance being requested is 1.75 meters. The effect of the application is to allow for the construction of an addition to an existing dwelling on the subject lands. A comment was received from Bell Canada, having no concern or objection to the application. We also received a letter of support from Mr. Owen Gray. He also outlined some comments with regards to possible conditions for committee to consider to add to the approval. That included possibly the replanting of trees if necessary. He made comments with regard to climate change and the type of heating sources being used for the addition. And also comments with regards to the realignment possibly of a fence. And then we also have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves minor variance 23A16 pertaining to lands at 8 Homestead Drive on the basis that it meets the 4 tests in accordance with the Planning Act.
Planning staff, do you have any comments to add to the file before us today?
Thank you, Chair. Planning staff have no further comments. I can advise that we have reviewed the additional comments that were received following authoring of the report. But there's no further changes to the current recommendation based on review of those comments, but staff are available to answer any questions.
Excellent. Is there a Mr. Hafner here? Come on up. All right, a representative.
Which one of these is just stand in the middle?
Thank you.
Okay,
Do you have anything to add to what we've read already?
I was just going to make a few comments to the letter that Christine commented on. I talked to my client yesterday, and he was just going to inform the committee that he also wants to maintain as many trees. The one tree that is in question, the ash tree in the letter, is going to be quite close to the house, where the canopy of the tree, the rule of thumb is the canopy of the tree is where the roots go. So even if they trim back the tree, they don't want to jeopardize their foundation. So they will be planting more trees, but they just wanted me to say a few points. When they bought the house, they cleared the overgrown brush and to maintain the good trees. They've also planted 6 trees in the front, 1 tree in the back, and 6 cedar hedge trees in the back. We have already reduced the septic to not in the mantle part, the one that the distribution at the back. We've decreased the size of that required so we don't touch the back trees. They've also had an arborist in to prune up the good trees to make sure they live longer. And they do have plans to plant more trees depending on where the budget of their house goes in the next few years when they can afford it. So that is it. And if you have any questions for me, I am here to answer.
Any questions from the committee members to anyone? Yes, sir.
I just wondered if there's any more comment about, in the letter we received about a privacy fence, whether there's any agreement going back and forth between the two parties on that, or any comments?
The fence is going to be maintained. The plan is to actually remove part of the existing structure that is there to rebuild the garage at its proper size. In doing that, they're going to put the septic system in then they will construct the foundation, and they plan to not touch the property line. Because all they'll need is a bobcat, which is what, 5 feet wide, and they're going to have still 3.25 meters, which is the request. But we are actually only going to need 3.58. We just went for that buffer just in case something was wrong with the survey or site plan that we had created. So we have no intentions of touching that fence at this time.
Does that satisfy your question? Excellent. Any more questions? None? Do we have a motion to accept the recommendation as written? All in favor? Accepted. Your minor variance, sir, has been accepted. You have a 20-day appeal period,
Okay,
at which point in time I would connect with Christine and carry on.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank
so
you
much.
very much. Last but not least, consent file 23-Bravo06. Ms. Taggart, would you please summarize the application, any correspondence received to date regarding that application?
The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 1955 Concession 6 North, formerly Nottawasaga, and legally described as Concession 5, part lots 31 and 32, Concession 6, part lots 31 to 33, and Reference Plan 51R 2257, parts 1 and 2, Reference Plan 51R 12328, parts 1 and 2, and Reference Plan 51R 16607, part 1. The purpose of the application is to request a lease beyond 21 years. The effect of the application is to allow for a long-term lease for the airport hangars and associated parking areas located on the subject lands. A comment was received from Bell Canada having no concern or objection to the application. And we also received a letter of objection from Clara Moni stating that she did not want to see any further development on the property. And we have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 23B06 pertaining to lands at 1955 Concession 6 North Nottawasaga, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including servicing bylaw charges and payment of the $150 fee for each certificate of consent to be issued. 2, that the applicant provides a description of the land and all associated buildings and structures which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 3, that the lease agreement be established for a term of up to 99 years with the option for renewal over the lands described in the condition 2. That a copy of the executed and registered lease agreement be provided to the township. And 4, that the lease agreement provides an indemnification clause to the satisfaction of the Township of Clearview, which indemnifies the township from any and all liability stemming from the consent, and specifically any liability related to the buildings and structures on the subject lands.
Planning staff, do you have anything to add to the file before us?
Thank you, Chairman. No, I do not. Not at this time. Thanks.
Do we have a representative from Winterland Airfield here? Yes, sir. Come on up to the microphone. Do you have anything to add to the file that was prepared for us today?
Not really. I think I've owned the airport for 6 years. A lot of it's been an exercise in housekeeping, cleaning up leases and things like that. And we're now ready to move forward, developing more hangars and things like that. And one of the things we'd really like to do is offer tenants a longer lease than 21 years. currently the leases that are there were all done by the town of Collingwood, and they all actually go over 21 years. So some of them are already there for 40, 50 years. And I guess Collingwood had the ability to do that because they were the municipal government at the time. And we just asked that we're able to do that too. The economics of building a large hangar for a small plane aren't very good. And the longer you can spread that out, the better. So we're hoping to do that. These will all be aviation related uses. We don't have any specifics in mind yet, but we'd like the ability to do this and extend the leases as we move forward with our plans. And that's really it. But I mean, I'm here to answer any questions. I know I've been meaning to come and see, the township for quite some time now, but we've been trying to get our house in order before we did that. So this is really my first foray into the arena, as they say. So you're welcome to ask me anything you want related to this application or not.
Cool. Well, it's our first one back in person. So you came to the right one.
It's great. I was excited to
I
hear
truly
that.
believe. I only have one question. Do you understand all the conditions that Ms. Taggart read in this file?
I do, and I have a question for one. If someone can please elaborate on the first condition, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including servicing bylaw charges and payment of the $150 fee for each certificate of consent to be issued. Obviously, I understand the $150 charge. The rest of it sounds very loosey-goosey to me, and I just want to be clear here, that we're not putting ourselves in a corner to, have to pay more and more development charges for doing this down the road. Maybe someone can help me with that.
Rosalind, do you want to answer that?
Yes, thanks for the question. So as you're aware, you don't pay development charges now because you don't obtain a building permit from the township. And that's strictly because you were regulated under an aerodrome status. And this approval doesn't change that in any way, shape, or form. So this condition is really just it is a standard one that we use for when we're actually dividing land. And I'm not certain if I think there is a form that we do have to register on title of the land, which is why you pay that $150 fee. That'll help Christine, helps the township recover their costs for Christine's time to actually do that form. And the form will only implement what we're trying to do here, which is give you your consent to have a lease over the 21 years, which is what the Planning Act allows. And so it's a formality of the Planning Act tool, and it allows future, say, lawyers or anyone who goes to look at the title of your property, they'll see that form and they'll understand potentially what that means.
Okay. So we won't be beholden to, say, other servicing costs. It will only be in relation to the actual application and the costs associated with that.
Correct.
Okay.
So basically what happens is once you clear these conditions and you have 2 years to do so, the application is in essence closed for the township, right? So, and then, the lease carries on because that's what you've applied for.
Okay.
So we can't come back and ask you, after you've done everything we've asked you to do here to pony up costs or whatever extra costs, right? So the conditions are as they are for this approval and as if the committee decides to approve them.
Okay. All right. I understand. Just for a peace of mind, we are beholden to the federal government. We do work with them, in a big way and to make sure that everything is up to snuff and up to par. And when we do our buildings, they are built, as to code. We just don't go through the formality of bothering you guys. Thank you.
All right. Did you say 1 or 2 years to complete the consent file?
I believe it's 2.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure which I heard.
It actually got changed, right, recently. So you can do it within a shorter time frame. It's just that you have up to 2 years, correct?
I didn't want the client to feel rushed. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, but just to be clear, After 2 years, we no longer have the ability to grant.
After the 2 years, if it's the wish of the committee to grant your request,
Yeah.
You have 2 years to complete the 4 conditions
Okay.
that have been listed. If you do not do that within the 2 years, the whatever committee decides, if it's approval, will lapse. And then you'll have to just reapply
Okay.
for that permission to allow for a longer lease period.
We will get on that right away.
And you'll have to come to our 26th meeting in person. Back again if you don't finish them. All right. Any more questions for, yes?
Yeah, just a clarification question. You mentioned that you have leases grandfathered in from when Collingwood owned the airport that extend past 21 years and various perhaps, and you're seeking the 99-year lease. Where does the 21-year lease come from? I'm not sure who to direct the question to.
It was the intent of the application was to say, I mean, potentially if we go to negotiate a lease for someone now, they would say, well, you know what, I'm not putting up a hangar here because it's too much money and it's, for 21 years. And so we would negotiate with them and say, okay, well, we will give you a lease agreement for 50 years or 75 years or whatever that number may be. But it would definitely be over 21 years. And the leases that are there right now, I believe they are grandfathered in. If they are not, what we can do is send out, notice to those leaseholders and say, you have the ability now to extend your lease in accordance with the Planning Act. And it's $150 and we will work, with Clearview to do that so that everything, the housekeeping is up to date.
Was the question though about where did the 21 years come from?
Yeah, I mean, in part, yes.
Right. So just to clarify again, that comes from the Planning Act and it's just a requirement. And so if there was a desire to do it for less than the 21 years, they would just go to the lawyer's office and they would register it and there would be an agreement. They wouldn't need to come and get a special form and or come to the committee for that additional time. But because of the desire to go beyond that time frame set out, it's just a procedure that the committee is granted to allow for longer lease terms.
I get it. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question. How much growth have you seen in the airport after COVID's kind of over with now? It sure looks like it's a lot busier than it used to be. So just quick comment.
It's been an interesting, by the way, my name is Jordy Dalgleish. I didn't say it at the beginning, but it's been an interesting phenomenon because during COVID, we had a sort of an uptick in airport traffic. The flight school went bananas. Everyone seemed to want to take flying lessons. So that was a plus. It sort of fell off a cliff since then, but we've been building our business, based on executive aircraft. And we're getting a lot more of those in there, which is beneficial. It's quite interesting because once you have the facility here, executives from the various companies in the region will fly in and use the airport. And we're seeing a lot of that. And I'm very interested to have a business background to see, who's coming in and where they're going and what they're doing. And you think, I had no idea there was a company like that, in the region. So it's very, very interesting. We hope to keep growing. We've got tenants now from Toronto that are leaving their aircraft up here, which is great as well. And so it's been good. We've kept a fine balance. We've kept the smaller aircraft and the local guys, and we've got the big executive aircraft. And you wouldn't believe what's in those big hangars on some days. It's amazing.
Does that satisfy your question, sir? Excellent. If there are no more questions, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Jordy. Just a question. If a tenant does not wish to renew their lease, what are their options?
Okay, so if a tenant doesn't want to renew their lease, the current leases state that they are allowed to remove their building because currently, most of the hangars are on a ground lease. So they take the ground, they lease the site from us, they put up the hangar and they get their lease and we renew them. We're not interested in kicking out our tenants because, you know, they're actually all great tenants. But if someone does not want to renew their ground lease, they can do one of two things. They can sell the hangar to us and we may or may not buy it, but that's why, or they can remove it. And
Okay.
that's,
How much time would they be allowed to remove an existing facility?
I think they're given 6 months.
Okay.
They're given 6 months for the notice and then they're given another 6 months after that. So it's a year pretty well.
Okay.
That's only happened once, but generally we're growing.
Could grow more.
I know.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions seen around the table, do we have a motion from the committee to accept the file as written? Yes. All in favor? Carried. You have a 20-day appeal period, sir.
Thank you.
And then I recommend calling Christine. She's probably the person that I'd call.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And I invite you all to come by and eat at Jimmy's Cafe. He's the airport chef. He serves a mean burger. Thank you.
I will have to check that out someday. All right, if there are no further files, Christine, this ends the public portion of the meeting. Dan, if you're still there, you can come back now. If you're still listening. Yes, there he is.
I'm still there.
Moving on to new business, if any. None, seeing none. Our tentative date for next month's meeting, Christine, is
November 29th.
November 29th.
Yes.
Excellent. Same time,
Yes.
same place. Excellent. Last motion I'm looking for to adjourn. All in favor? We've adjourned the meeting at 3:29 this Wednesday here in Clearview Township. Cheers.